Either know me or see me around town. My name's Natasha. I was 18 years old and I was in a motor vehicle accident that left me completely paralyzed. Keisha was 18 years old and 17, sorry, just about 18. And she was also in a motor vehicle accident, leaving her incompletely paralyzed. So a lot of people ask the difference between it. What they say the difference is I'm a complete, so I don't have control or feeling of my legs or anywhere below my brake level, whereas Keisha's an incomplete, so she has control and some feeling on her lower extremities past below her injury. Keisha's injury is in her neck, which makes her quadriplegic. I'm a paraplegic because my injury is in my back. So I think mine, if I recall correctly, is right about here on the spine. So my injury, because how I was injured, we were driving down Highway 16 and we were rear-ended by a semi-truck. And like most things you guys will learn if you take physics, is for every action there's an opposite and equal reaction. So the force that we were launched forwards from the impact of the vehicle hitting us was also the same as the force that I went back into my seat rest, which essentially caused my spine to shatter. So it's the bones itself that were broken in mine, and it was from those bones that had gone in and stabbed through my spinal cord. And for mine, the big ones that are broken are, there's 4 of them out here, down the middle. And these ones out that come straight out, they're actually really important to help you sit up straight. So I have a little bit more problems with doing that because I'm missing 4 vertebrae that would normally help with that, and plus not having core makes it even more of an issue. Keisha's is a little bit different because of it being in her neck, and there wasn't actually any bone breakage, was it?
Yeah, C6 was completely shattered. So we had to take a piece of my hip bone and we did have my C6 and then fuse them together.
Yeah. So that's different things that different injuries have. So yeah, if mine were about here, Keisha's would be right up at the top. And then you have, your C vertebrae, which is where Keisha's is. You have mine, which is the T vertebrae. And then you have the L vertebrae right at the bottom, which goes down into your tailbone. And the L vertebrae, damage in those generally just stops leg movement, whereas ours, we don't have sensation over our stomachs or our intestines or legs or anything, so it's a lot different. Just based on where your injury levels, based on what problems you have. So after I was injured, or after the accident, I was, I got sent to Hinton. They did a couple x-rays on me, realized how severe of a spinal cord injury that I had. From there, I was put into a neck brace and a backboard, sort of restabilized and sent to Edmonton. From there, I was put, or was it Hinton that they had put me into a medical coma?
In Hinton they did.
In Hinton they put me into a medical coma so that I couldn't further my injury. Once I was in Edmonton, the next day after my injury, they had sent me into surgery where they had to go in to remove all the shrapnel from my spine and to add 2 8-inch titanium bars into my back to help restabilize. From there, I was in the intensive care unit for 3 days. 3 days? Yeah. And then from there, I went on to a normal unit in the Grande Royal Allied Hospital, and then I was there for a week and a half, something like that. A week. Then I came back here for a week because it was right before Christmas, and I was told I wasn't going to get to the Grande until after Christmas, so I figured might as well spend Christmas at home. So after they had sent me home. I was here for a week, and then we had gotten a phone call that they had a bed open for me in the Glenrose Rehabilitation Hospital in Edmonton. So I was then flown back into Edmonton. From there, I spent the next 3 months going through different rehabilitation, learning how life is in a wheelchair. It's you go through your daily how to shower, how to get up, how to get dressed, and then you also have your daily of how do you move the chair around efficiently, how do you get in and out of it, how do you get off the floor, how do you transfer from one surface to another. That's pretty much the same thing that both of us went through. Keisha has a little bit different of a story because she has some sensation and some movement. She has different therapy methods that she would have went through, and then also to try and get her to use her hands properly, because they don't work. Whereas I have full dexterity in mine, hers are curled over and don't always cooperate. She's figured out how to use her thumbs, and that's about as far as it goes.
They're not demented. You make it sound like they're demented.
They're not horribly, but you have to realize that people in wheelchairs have a tendency of comparing things a lot between each other that most people wouldn't compare. So for the fact that I make hers sound a lot worse, they're not, but compared to what I've gone through and what I've had, it comes out a lot differently in just daily adventures, I guess you could say. So all the way through high school, you guys might only recognize Miss Concert and Miss Vines. But yeah, I played volleyball all the way through high school, basketball through middle school. I was, as any of you know, that hasn't really changed, really into the outdoors. That's where you'd find me all the time. I was backpacking, rock climbing, swimming, hiking, canoeing. There wasn't much that they couldn't get me to, or couldn't convince me to try. And I had also spent 4 years working with the Junior Canadian Rangers and going to different summer camps, meeting tons of new people, all sorts of new adventures. When Mr. Nolan's first year teaching in Grande was actually the first year, or the year I hit grade 9. So that kind of gives you an idea of where I'm at in timeline of the school. And then June of 2012, I had graduated, and then Remembrance Day, by this point I had been sworn into the Canadian Rangers, so I had switched from the Junior Rangers to the Adult Rangers, and Remembrance Day was my first official military exercise, and this was the last picture that was taken before the injury, or accident, and then 3 days later, we were in the accident. So this is the front end of our truck. If you actually look, I don't know if I'm going to be tall enough, but you can see here, the driver's seat isn't there, and the passenger seat is. So the way that it was broken off is the driver's seat was actually sheared off entirely. Or was it the passenger seat was sheared off entirely?
The passenger seat was sheared off.
Yeah, and then the driver's seat was just broken.
Well, it was fused back. So.
Yeah. So that's one reason that we think, one of my beliefs as to why I was injured was because, whereas my dad's seat had fallen backwards, mine hadn't. We think that's what it was because there was something there stopping me, whereas if the seat would have moved, I would have had more room and I theoretically, shouldn't have been injured. But this is the rear end of our truck. So our tailgate, was over the rear axle. The transmission was
Gone.
It was a couple clicks down the highway. From the front end, it doesn't look too bad. Sorry. Good job, Rylan. doesn't look like anything major, but from the back you can definitely tell that there was definitely an accident. It was 8 o'clock in the morning, and the roads were completely dry, completely bare. It was just one of those things, wrong place, wrong time. As a lot of people that have been injured in motor vehicle accidents will tell you, that is what it is a lot of the time. It's wrong place, wrong time. Right? So this is after I was injured, or after they semi-restabilized my back. They hadn't gotten the bars into this point, but you guys can see my vertebrae. I'm not quite telling them.
Right there, yeah.
They're not straight. That's where it was broken. So once the vertebrae in here had broken, then it allowed my spine to shift and curve and do all sorts of weird things that spines aren't meant to be doing. And then here's from the side. So how I had said I was missing bits and pieces of my spine. So some of these were sheared off. Matt didn't tell me what they were, but I can't remember because they're a big long word. And then you also had my spine that, as you can see, chunks of it are broken and is actually in a triangle instead of flat like it's supposed to. And then this is after they put the bars in to restabilize. So a lot of people don't believe me when I say that I'm part robot because I have more metal in my body than most people do. So yeah, there's 2 8-inch titanium rods and 12 screws. When I was in the Glen, most of the people that I had talked to that were injured as well, they kind of had the same story. Same amount of metal that we all have. We all have the same scar from it. Just depends on where in our back it is. This is a friend of mine. He has a lower injury than I do. And this was closer to the time of the injury, so it still looks quite inflamed. Most of our scars, you barely notice them unless you actually go looking for them. Whereas his is more in his lower back, mine goes up to right about the base of my neck, roughly. Keisha's is more in her neck, right?
Yeah, it starts with the
Base of your head.
yeah, and it goes down to the back.
Yeah. My scar, last time we measured it, is 14 inches in length. And yeah, it depends on, because mine they had to go in and remove the shrapnel, then that makes a big difference. They had to go in to be able to get in and make sure everything was all fine and dandy. And then there's, I have other friends that theirs is a lot shorter. And it just really does depend on your injury, how you're injured, how bad it is, what they're gonna have to do to fix it, how it was caused, etc. And then, apparently this was my favorite shirt when I was in the hospital because I wore it like all the time. But yeah, they did teach us a few different things. Since getting out, of course, have to learn how to do things a lot differently. So downhill skiing, quadding, my first and only attempt at shoveling the sidewalk. If I can get out of it, why not? Gotta take advantage of some of these things. Bow and arrow, foals. I gotta tell you, foals absolutely love people, or in my experience, absolutely love people in wheelchairs, because, especially if they're not humanized quite yet, because we don't move around as often, we can sit there and allow the foal to come to us. They seem to be a lot more approachable versus everybody else that moves. So that's kind of cool, one benefit. More work with the military. Yeah. And then since it's been 4 years since I've been injured, 3 years since Keisha's been injured, this past September we both started going to university. I've been having to deal with a few more medical things than Keisha has, so that's why I'm kind of a little bit further behind, but it all comes out one way or another. And then one thing that I have that's a little bit different than a lot of people that are in wheelchairs is, as you guys see, my legs fight with me a lot. I have a lot stronger spasms than a lot of people do in wheelchairs, even Keisha's. Hers give her trouble, mine really don't cooperate. They really do have a mind of their own. People don't understand it, but they do. And then yeah, there's just daily things that both of us have to deal with, just because of being in the wheelchair, and it takes over your daily life. People don't understand the amount of time that we have to set aside just for what we do on a medical basis every day. Both of us are only able to take part-time courses through school because of all of that. Keisha, luckily enough, being in Grand Prairie, is able to work. I don't have so many options here, but it's just a matter of location.
And the accident happened because the truck driver that hit her reached down for a cup of coffee. That's all he did is he looked.
As much as you guys, some of you guys, don't believe in the whole distracted driving thing. For you, the time it takes for you to reach down to look down to see where a cup of coffee is going to be less than it takes then to send a text message. Think about that. It takes less time for you to look down and back up. And that's all he did. He was going down the highway, everything was fine, he looked down to grab his coffee, and next time you know, he looked up and he was sitting on top of us. So, I get a chuckle out of these people that say that, you know, texting and driving doesn't cause any harm, doesn't do anything. Well, I think, living story that it does. Keisha's is
Similar.
you kind of looked down, but it wasn't swapped into you.
Oh, hey, you just ruined the entire thing. Yes, you did.
Trying to think. Did I miss anything?
I don't think so.
We're working with technology here.
It disappeared.
Did I miss anything? Okay. You can tell me if Keisha work very differently. She has to have things planned out. I don't. Yeah. It drives her nuts. Hey, you two.
Is it later than mine?
We're gonna give Keisha's a go and see how this works.
Okay, you go to the next. So I actually grew up in Sexsmith, which is about 2 hours north of here. And I lived there with my mom, my stepdad, and my 3 brothers, which are intertwined into there. I went to Sexsmith High School for 11 years, and I played baseball, oh my gosh, no, basketball, soccer, football. I rode horses around Alberta with my grandpa. I was just a regular teenager, just like everyone in here once was. And yeah, so about grade 7, I started getting bullied in my school, and I stopped going to school. I stopped. I lost a lot of my friends, and I started getting depressed. So that lasted about until grade 11, when I finally got my license and decided that I needed a change. I wanted to be happy again, and this wasn't cutting it. So I took the initiative and I moved to Beaver Lodge with my best friend. Beaver Lodge is about an hour away from Sexsmith. So I started going there for about a month, and it was amazing. Breath of fresh air. I started having friends. I liked going to school. I didn't skip anymore and all that. So November 26th comes around. Started out like end of day before. Went to school, did some homework, came back home, and plopped my butt on the couch and watched TV with my friend. My phone lit up from a text message from a girl that I used to nanny for in Sexsmith, and asked me if I could go babysit. So I looked out the window and I couldn't even see across the road because it was snowing so bad and so dark and all that. So I said, I don't think I can come in. And it's again an hour drive. So I get another text saying, we will pay you double. We really need somebody. I said, okay, I'll take it. Being in high school, make a lot of money, so you jump on any chance you can get. So I didn't really feel comfortable going alone. So I messaged my friend Brittany asking if she would come with me, and she said sure. So before we headed off to Sexsmith, I had to make a pit stop at my ex's house and drop off his crap. I hate bringing it up, but it has to intertwine in the story. So about 5 minutes out of there, I get a text message saying, just bickering at me. So I pull my car over and I start texting and we're arguing. So I asked Brittany, can you please drive for me there because this isn't ending anytime soon. So right before we drove off, I said, don't hit any animals. We got to her house about, I think, 10 o'clock at night, and we babysat till about 1, she come home. But as we were babysitting, Brittany mentioned wanting to go to McDonald's. And McDonald's is my #1 love. I eat it religiously, and I'll jump on any chance I can get to go to McDonald's. So I was all for it. Until she mentioned she forgot her wallet. And again, I didn't have a lot of money, and I selfishly just didn't want to pay for her food. So there's 2 ways you can get to Beaver Lodge from Sexsmith. You have the Emerson, and you have the double highway. If you take the double highway, you go by McDonald's. You take the Emerson, you don't go by McDonald's. So obviously I chose to go Emerson, hoping she didn't remember that she mentioned going to McDonald's. So about half an hour down the road, Timber starts playing. So I leaned over, turned it up, and got comfortable in my vehicle again, or chair again. And before I knew it, I seen something emerging from the ditch on my left-hand side. Immediately, everything went white. And, oh, shoot, sorry. I slammed on my brakes and yelled, shit. Everything went white, and the things I haven't done in life started flooding my thoughts. I haven't graduated high school, I haven't gone to college, I haven't gotten married, I haven't had a kid. And usually in the movies, it's always everything that you've already done, right? So I came back to reality with my arms in my face like this, just shaking. I was traumatized, and I tried to stop them, they wouldn't stop. I tried to move my legs, wouldn't move. I tried to move my head so I could see if Brittany was okay, wouldn't move. So I didn't know at the time, but my diaphragm was injured because of the level of injury I sustained. So I tried to ask Brittany if she was okay, and all I could let out was a little whisper, Brittany, are you okay? And I hear, yes, I'm fine. So I said, good, get me out of here. We didn't know what was going on, and I just didn't want to be in the vehicle anymore. So luckily, she was actually trained as a paramedic, or not paramedic, something like that. Like
One of the EM something?
Yeah, they take in school. So she came over to my side and put her arms under my armpits and supported my neck as she dragged me out. And remember, when I seen the figure, I slammed on my brakes. So as she pulled me out, my car rolled into the ditch. So when she pulled me out, she laid me in the middle of the road on the street, and she said, okay, I'm gonna leave you here, I need to go get my phone so I can call the cops. And Brittany had never really been out there, so as she's on the phone with the cops, she had to go up and down the street looking for a sign because she didn't really know where we were. So I could hear her talking to them, and it started getting farther and farther away. So I stared at the sky, and I just kept saying over and over again, I'm not gonna die, I'm not gonna die. And I started hearing coyotes and started imagining my death by coyotes, and just all overwhelming. And then I noticed a light coming from the distance, and it grew closer and closer, and then I started hearing the sound of a car, and it getting closer and closer, and it did not sound like it was slowing down at all. So I tried to yell at Brittany, saying, Brittany, there's a vehicle coming, it's getting closer and closer. And again, remember, my diaphragm was injured, So all I could let out was, Brittany, she's getting closer, closer. And I couldn't even hear her at this point, so I didn't even know if she'd hear me. So I decided to close my eyes and hope for the best. And the next thing I remember is her again coming under my armpit and neck and dragging me across the road right onto the side part. Right after she let go of me, the car went by. And then another one, and then another one. I think it was 3 cars that went by before finally a semi-truck drove by us, and he noticed my car in the ditch and came back and kind of barricaded around us so that no other vehicle could get past. So before the semi-truck had come, she had talked to the police and they were on their way and everything. So she was holding my neck, keeping me calm. So the semi-truck driver come out and he was talking to Brittany for a little bit, and then came over and put blankets on me and Brittany, and just kept us calm until the ambulance came. So when the ambulance came, they started strapping me to a hard board, started putting tape around my head, toward having pillows or towels. You can do the next picture so that you kind of get the idea. Yeah, started strapping me all to it. So after that, they propped it up and put me inside the ambulance, and then they started ripping off my clothes, stabbing me with needles, talking to each other, not talking to me. So I said, "Am I gonna die?" And nobody answered me. They just went about their business. So I said, "Can I go to sleep?" And they're like, "Yes." So I closed my eyes and drifted off into sleep. So the police had called my mom and said that your daughter has been in an accident. And again, remember, I was living in Blue Village with my best friend, not living with my mom. And you come to the hospital if you want. I don't know if it was for her safe arrival or anything, but it was a little far-fetched. So as she got to the hospital, they had done all the x-rays just like they did with Natasha. And he come into the room with my mom and said, they have to get her out of here. She needs to go to Edmonton ASAP. What had happened is I broke my neck, and yes, it was a noose. So my vehicle, you can tell the front end wasn't touched at all. So we went under his legs, and he landed on the roof of my vehicle. So that's how I broke my neck, the impact of his body and everything. To the next one. So I made it to Edmonton about 5 a.m. The first thing I remember is waking up to drills being screwed into my head. They had one here, and 2 behind my ear. The only thing I can really relate it to that I've ever seen in movies is if you guys have ever seen Mean Girls. At the end, Regina George has her ear. Yeah. So that's exactly what I had to do, except I'm laying down and they have weights on it to align your spine until surgery, so you don't wreck it anymore. So
And that's the big difference between a T-spine injury and a C-spine injury? Is the C-spine, they have to stabilize a lot more than the T-spine?
Yeah, you would have to have a halo, right? Yeah, so I was in the halo for about 5 days before surgery, just staring at a roof, talking to my mom, seeing all these people coming in. I really don't, oh, okay, that's in a later date. So, yeah, about a week after I got moved into a ward, and that's when I met with the neurosurgeon for the first time, and he came in the room and said, the first thing he said to me, and smile on his face, you will never walk again. You're C5, C6 quadriplegic. Just yesterday, I'm driving my car, hanging out with my friends, loving school and all this, and it'd be taken away from me in a second. I didn't know what to do, so I drew my attention to the clock on my wall and just started crying. And I said, I will never believe you. There's this thing called a miracle, and I will use your negativity as my motivation, and you'll see one day. Yeah, you can go to the next one. So, being bullied in school, I didn't think people cared about me at all. I thought that if I was gone, nobody would care. Well, let me tell you, do not wait until something life-altering happens to you before you realize how much people actually care about you. It's overwhelming, and It's unreal. Okay, so with our injury level, we go through a lot. There's more to it than not being able to just walk, okay? Please bear with me and please laugh at us. It makes me feel better. We don't have a lot of control of things. And one of those
No control whatsoever.
is going to the bathroom, okay? If it's coming, it's coming. We can't stop it. So I'm going to tell you a really funny story. So in Brown Prairie, there's a really long hallway, and you have starting point, midpoint, end point. There's glass windows opening out to everywhere, all through it. So I was in therapy one day, and my friend surprised me. And so I said, I don't really want to chill in my hospital room. I'm in there all day. Let's go for a walk. Well, roll. So I said, let's go downstairs. So there was me, I think 4 friends, my mom, and my little brother. My little brother was like 2 at the time. So we are going down this hallway, and we get midway, and we decide to take a break. My friend crouches down to my little brother and was like, "Ah, Jesse, you stink." I turned around. Oh my gosh, that's not Jesse. I threw my blanket on my head. There was a pile, like big noticeable trail of shit leading right up to my wheelchair. And then I hear people going by. Oh my gosh, someone just shit in the hallway. And I cannot pretend it's not me because it's leading right up to my wheelchair. And before I threw the blanket over my head, I noticed something in one of the pieces of poop. One of my friends stepped in it, and each of them had to check. Moral of the story, she doesn't talk to me anymore, but that's okay. Okay, next one. So therapy, my very first therapy session, I was a teenager, so they asked me what my goals were. I could have as many as I want, and big or small, whatever. So I said I only have 2. And number 1, I want to learn how to text again. Number 2, I want to walk again. And he's like, nothing in between? Mm-hmm. So right over here will be the first time I learned how to text, if it'll work. In the corner. Up. Yeah. Work. Well, they had to strap a stylus over my hand, or a little gadget over my hand, and nice, and put a stylus in it, like the ones that you use for iPad. And then as I'm laying in bed, they have to set up a towel, a pillow, a blanket, and then this mesh that holds my phone in place, just so that it can be in my vicinity. And yeah, so then I had to just go like this the entire time. With my determination and not wanting my mother to read every single thing on my text, on my phone and everything, I learned how to use my thumbs in text, which is in that video. It's not working. Yeah, I broke it. And the other ones are videos too. Okay, hold.
Is there an option to like enable the videos at the top of it?
Yeah, you might be able to do it better. Don't even worry about it. Should be fine. Just go on in the corner. Anyways, and then those 2 videos are just of my progress with wheeling. I wasn't able to do it all, and now I can. Go ahead. And this is just a slide showing you that I can do everything I did before, just in a different way. Like at first I had to use my mouse to shake my legs. New wheelchair, first time holding something in my hand, and yeah.
That's one thing that people get really confused with us is Keisha's not so bad because at least she can move her chair around with one hand and hold something in the other one. Whereas people look at me like I'm really weird because I need both hands to move around, so quite often I'll carry stuff around in my teeth and people get so freaked out by it, but you know what? You just figured out you gotta do what you gotta do to be able to get stuff done. That's what it comes down to when you're stuck in a wheelchair is you learn how to do things. It's gonna be different. People are gonna judge you on it, but you have to do what you have to do. Right? We have that conversation.
Oh yes. So, difference between me and Natasha is she got in the accident after she graduated. I was right in the middle. I was a semester away from graduating with my friends, right? So the minute I woke up from consciousness, or I wasn't even in the right mind, they have you on, pumped on morphine and all this stuff. So I said, okay, Mom, I'll go back to school next week. She's like, it's not gonna work like that. It's like, okay, fine, next month. Next month turned into next semester turned into months and months. So I had enough of that, and I said, I don't want this injury taking one more thing away from me. So I talked to my peers and my teachers at the school, and I said, I only have 2 courses that I need to finish before I can graduate. So between therapies, visitations with my friends, copious 4 a.m. nights, and I taught myself how to write again, to use a computer. I did all my schoolwork in the hospital, and I got to graduate with my friends. The biggest problem with that was I've been living in the hospital for 4 months now, and I finally got away, got to have life back again, and I had to go back to the hospital. And that was really hard, depressing for me to have the breath of freedom and then have to go back to this reality. So I still classify it as one of the best days of my life, but so you guys remember the truck driver that stopped that one night? Me and Brittany asked if the police had any records of him, asked for a statement or knew his name, and they had nothing. They didn't ask for anything, and so we had to take it upon ourselves. I posted a Facebook status. I didn't think anything of it, but at 9 a.m. and by 2 o'clock we found him. It went viral, like all over the world, so many shares. It was incredible. And so I finally got to meet him, and he got to add up a whole bunch of pieces for me and Brittany that we didn't know about that night, right? And put it all together. And it was actually kind of funny that you can see in his shirt, he's actually wearing a noose on his sweater. So we decided against driving that night. But, we don't feel very safe. Our luck is not very good. Go ahead. That one's done. So in 2014, October, we had a fundraiser, and I was actually able to purchase a van and start driving. And this is just how I get in. Everything's push start. So on the floor, there's actually a lock-in thing. Yeah, so it locks me in, so I can't die.
Do you want me to go the other side? Also realize that my fingers do not work. This is quite hard. There. I love it.
Yeah, this one I'll just show that one video, it doesn't really matter with the rest. This is, and you just do it for like 2 seconds. It's just gonna show you, how I drive. I have a little, mechanism, yeah, that helps me turn the steering wheel. And then in the corner, I have a lever that if you push it, is brake, and if you pull it, it's gas.
Where are we gonna
That's
go?
basically that way. Yeah, one big bonus is we get a really good parking spot.
Yes, fantastic. But then the frustrating thing is people wonder why we need larger parking spots, but when you have a van like Keisha's where that ramp has to come out, then it's necessary that we have those wider spots, and people just seem to have a hard time grasping that concept.
But even with Natasha, because she's a manual chair, she still needs the door to open all the way. She just can't open it part way. She has to have it all the way open for her to get in and out.
This one, skip. Oh yes, so. What, that was like 6 months ago, roughly? Yeah, so I just moved out on my own, into my own apartment. Everything was wheelchair accessible, and I didn't think that that was possible at all. Like, it's incredible, I would never go back, especially because you get to pick the food that you like. You don't have to eat vegetables like your mother always throws in there.
Yeah, she lives off chicken.
Chicken's good for you. Yeah, so life is really, really good. But now, go ahead for the next one. So I can sit here and show you how amazing our life is, and it is, but we also go through really, really hard times, right? So this is a reality. I'm gonna show you a video of one of my therapy sessions. And I'm gonna read you something that I wrote when I was still in the hospital. There we go. Because I'm trying to get up on both my hands. Okay. Somebody once asked me, how do you feel being disabled? This was my response. Imagine being able to walk 1 second and in the blink of an eye, it being taken away from you. Let me tell you, it is one of the most frustrating and scariest things imaginable. I hate thinking about not being able to do something, not being able to hang out and do stuff with my friends like regular teenagers, not being able to go to school to learn and socialize. I hate listening to my friends talk about all the things that they are doing without me. I hate being restricted and limited to the places I can and cannot go because of my inability to walk. It's not fair. I hate reminiscing about my life before. I can't help but wonder where my life would be and what it would look like if this accident didn't happen. I miss driving, I miss shopping at the mall with my friends, I miss everything so much. I hate the stares I get everywhere I go, every turn I make. Imagine, everyone knowing each aspect of your personal and private life. Everything there is to know about you, everything you say being written down and read off from nurse to nurse. Whether you're having a bad day or a good day, they all know about it. Everyone seeing every body part of yours, no privacy whatsoever. Having your life planned out on a strict schedule, leaving no room for spontaneous things, yeah, that's my life. Imagine, your entire grade 12 year ruined by a stupid moose. Feeling like your world is crashing down left, right, and center, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. I know I make it look and seem easy sometimes, but the truth is there's a lot of times I just want to break down and cry. I asked God, why me? What could I have possibly done to deserve this crappy hand that I've been dealt? It's then that I remember God never gives you more than you can handle. I remember that everything happens for a reason. I remember I'm still here, alive, and breathing. I remember it could be so much worse. I could be dead, I could be on a ventilator, I could be a vegetable. But luckily I'm not. I'm still me, Keisha. I'm still mentally stable. I have family and friends who love and support me. I'm getting new things every day, continuing to prove doctors wrong. Loving and living my life to the fullest. Sure, I can't do all of the same things I used to, but I can do anything I set my mind to. I've realized that where there's a will, Keisha finds a way. If I truly believe I will walk again, I will. Life will be much better than before. It will just take time. I remember all the amazing people I have met along this journey, including nurses, therapists, and patients that I would have never had the chance of meeting if this accident never happened. I will overcome this. I will be a miracle. I will walk again. As my tattoo proclaims, fall down 7 times to end up 8. Here's to standing up one more time than I've been knocked down. And this video does not end well. I don't get up, and as soon as I got home, I deleted all of these. I didn't want to see them ever again. My therapist was the one that said, no, Keisha, you should probably keep these just in case. So I decided, I kept them, I hid them away, and then a couple months later I go back, I can do this no problem now. And it makes it so much more satisfying knowing that. And yeah, I've learned that it's okay to have bad days, and my bad days are somebody else's good days, and your guys' good days are probably somebody else's good days. Yes, is that right? Yeah, and so life's what you make it. That's basically it. You don't have to watch the whole thing. And then, yeah, I post all my updates and everything that I'm doing onto YouTube and Facebook if you guys ever wanna check them out.
And so there's certain things that I kind of forgot to tell you about my injury that Keisha kind of went into hers that I forgot about. So when I was actually injured in my accident, injury, I had 2 broken ribs, tons of cuts and bruises, and I also had 2 hematomas, so it bleeds in the brain. I had hit my head that hard that I had actually caused brain damage. I had about a 2x4 section of hair that was missing from the back of my head from blunt force trauma. Those 2 bleeds in my brain did eventually go away, causing some hallucinations along the way, but that's a whole nother story. And they've proven it has caused actual permanent disability afterwards. My brain doesn't work the way that it used to. So that's another challenge that a lot of people in wheelchairs has. Luckily, Keisha didn't actually have any brain damage, but with both of our injuries, it's quite possible, or any injury for anybody that in a wheelchair, it's quite possible for them to have that injury. So.
Yes, and Natasha taught me last year to bring candy to bribe all you guys. So if you ask a question, you get candy. And if I can get some throw them, because I'll probably hit you.
Unintentionally, I'll just do it intentionally.
Does anybody have any questions?
What's the hardest part of the day?
Each day is different. Depends on your mood, I think.
Most of the time I find it's trying to convince myself to get out of bed. That's what it is. It's trying to convince your brain that yes, okay, I have to get up. You really don't want to most of the time. Most of the time you just want to stay in bed and sit in your sorrow for a bit. But trying to convince yourself to get out of bed is one of the hardest things, but one of the best things that we've learned to have to do in the morning. Pretty much.
You get out of bed yourself.
Okay, yes. That's the thing. She's forced to get out of bed. She has to use a lift to get in and out of bed, so she's forced to, whereas I have the choice of whether I want to get in and out of bed. So, but it's still that same mentality first thing in the morning that it's like, okay.
What kind of candy do you want? There's caramel and mints and suckers.
You're giving it a choice, right?
Wow.
Alright. Apparently I'm a little further away than I
Okay, I'll get the next one then.
go for it.
Go ahead.
Do you guys have any difficulty sleeping?
When I was in the Glenrose, there was quite often that I was offered sleeping medication because apparently it is quite often that we have issues sleeping, whether it be PTSD, flashbacks, etc. My problem with sleeping is my spasms get so bad that they'll wake me up. I also have nerve pain that they can wake me up just because they hurt so bad or my legs are just moving so bad that it wakes me up.
I don't. I'm very, very lucky. It's just when just like every one of you guys, when you start thinking.
It's just, you don't go to sleep.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna try caramel because good luck.
Oh. Yeah, I think you guys noticed there's a big difference between the two.
I can give you any order if you want.
Over here.
Oh, in a second.
What do you guys want to do before you got taken?
I wanted to become a fish and wildlife officer.
I wanted to be a criminal investigator, but now I don't want to do that because they'll be like, oh my gosh, you put me in jail, you're in a wheelchair, you're easy to kill. I don't know how that feels.
Actually, dealing with the lawyer that I have, she was just saying that there was actually a paraplegic that just became a judge. So he's actually a judge in the federal system, and he's a complete paraplegic. So it shows that it's possible for us to do whatever, it's just whether we put our minds to actually doing it.
Okay, that was under special.
What did you say?
That was under the.
Pardon?
It went under the.
It's
Oh.
under there. Yeah,
So neither of you have injuries because of a drunk driver or alcohol or drugs or anything like that, but where does your mind go when you think of others who do have that, or do you know anyone?
It's stupid.
uh,
I don't know why you would do that, like,
well, and that's mine because of it. It's not a drunk driver, but it's a distracted driver.
Yep.
So I have kind of a little bit of that, not quite the same. Most of my friends, our injuries are caused. Keisha had a moose. I was hit by a truck driver. I have another friend that rolled his truck on a patch of black ice. Keisha was 17. My friend and I were both 18. But I really don't have a lot of friends that are disabled because of a drunk driver.
but it's showing that if something so random can happen, why would you
Yeah.
put yourself into actually
Yeah.
intentionally?
If an accident like this can happen when you're sober,
Exactly.
think of what can happen when you're drunk
Yeah, it's
or stoned.
and that's with mine. With my injury, especially once I found out that the driver had been distracted, it caused. I'm sure it would be the same idea for anybody that was influenced by a drunk driver. It caused a lot of anger. Because it was something as stupid as reaching for your coffee. Like, why couldn't you just be watching the road and driving like a normal person? But I think eventually, after you get to a certain point, you just come to realize that the anger is not worth it. You just kind of gotta move on. It's not worth focusing on something that's not going to change.
But the guilt, if you were to do
Yeah.
that, if you were a drug driver, the guilt will never go away.
Yeah, the driver that had hit us, he hadn't realized that he had actually caused me to be paralyzed until he had seen me 3 years later. And he couldn't sit in the room with me because he was just felt that much guilt knowing that he had put an 18-year-old in a wheelchair. That's too far.
Caramel, please.
Caramel?
Yeah.
You asked a question, so she's like, "God, guys, run that."
Don't hit Betty.
Hit Betty.
Oh,
Sorry. That was a little off. I haven't played basketball in like 10 years, guys. Okay.
Brendan, look what you've done. Brendan still can't kick. You're supposed to be cool.
And that's another thing you'll notice, other than today, apparently we're both defying the odds most of the time. We will be the two coldest people in the room. Because we don't move our legs and our bodies the same way that you guys do, we don't have that same circulation, so it's really easy for us to get cold. I actually have, I don't know, just a different lifestyle than Keisha. I have scars along my left leg from different activities that I've been doing and end up burning myself most of the time. I've never been good with hot things, and apparently that's just not going to stop now. I have about a 3-inch long scar on my ankle from getting on the quad, and I couldn't feel the heat from the quad. I have a scar on my knee from something as simple as the hot water tap underneath the sink, and I didn't realize it had gotten hot. It's little things like that that you don't think about throughout your daily life until something happens, and then it's like, oh yeah, well, probably should have done something about that, but just deal with it. That turns into a lot of our daily life. You just deal with it. Anything else? Yes, Ryan?
Somebody asked before what you wanted to do before the accident. Well, now with the accident, has your goals changed? Now what do you want to do? Do you still think that's a foreseeable future for you?
It is possible for me to go into forestry and fish and wildlife, just more on the office side, because there is always going to be certain things that has to be done in the office, the paperwork, etc. Personally, I think that would cause a lot of anger, because knowing that you're close but not quite to the job that you want. So I've actually chosen to go into a completely different field. I've chosen to go into business, which a lot of people think I'm absolutely nuts for. But it is possible depending on how far you want to go. But like we said, I wanted to be the one chasing the cougar through the bush,
Yeah.
and can't do that anymore. So you just got to adapt, and sometimes your adaptations aren't exactly what you want them to be. Try and think if all of a sudden something happened, you couldn't be on the fire team.
Yeah. What do you teach?
I'm in open studies right now, and I don't know. I don't really know what I want to do with my life, but opportunities all open. You can do anything.
And that's one benefit that a lot of people say, because we're being so young, we have that many more opportunities, and we're not already set on a specific course. We can go wherever we want, whatever rises.
Cause you did say you burned yourself from quad, right? So you're still doing that, you're still, I believe, you guys are horseback riding, so you're still.
Just in a different way.
Yeah, you've been on a horse, I drive a quad, I've been whitewater rafting, I still work with the JCRs all the time, teaching them different skills. A couple weeks ago, I was on the floor playing with them. You just gotta adapt. Adapt is the biggest word for what we do in our daily lives, realistically. Fail. All right.
Goes over there.
You try. Yeah, you got it. All right.
Okay, Sandy has a question.
Okay, so I have a question. Keisha, you mentioned that you just moved into an apartment that's wheelchair accessible?
Yeah.
Natasha, what changes had to take place in your home?
So our home, we were pretty lucky. We live in a bungalow style in town. Anybody that lives down in Fourth Phase kind of has an idea of what our house is like. So for us, we were pretty lucky. For me to get in the house, we just needed to build a ramp. To get around the house, we widened the doors to get into the bedroom. The bathroom door wasn't wide enough for me to get in and out, so we've actually opened up the wall between the bedroom and the bathroom so that I have like 6 feet across that I can get in and move around where I need to. We've moved some walls around to have a separate dining area, and then now that we have the separate dining area, we're able to put in an area in the kitchen that's lower down that I can work on and be able to have a cooktop and have a prep surface. But I think for the most part, ours wasn't too bad. I know when Keisha left the hospital, was back at her mom and dad's, they had a few more problems because it was a split level.
Yeah, so we had to do a huge elevator. From our deck was 12 feet, so they had to do an elevator up. And then we had those commercials with the old people going up those little stair climbs? We got one of those. Yeah, and then I think that's about, and then the lifts and everything, but
Yeah, for the most part.
a lot of money.
Yeah, Keisha's van alone was about $80,000.
Wheelchair, 10,000.
Yeah, each of our wheelchairs run about 10,000 each, and that's because I have a higher grade wheelchair. Mine's made out of titanium, so that it's really light. It's easy for me to move it around. The more weight that I carry on me, whether it be my chair or myself or my bag, that's more weight I can move around. So the lighter chair makes it a little bit easier. And then electric wheelchairs are just crazy expensive, anyways. Luckily, we only have to get one every 5 to 10 years, depending on.
The cushion they sit on is $800.
Yeah, and I have 2 of my cushions, so it sounds really bad, but if you know what you're looking for in a house with somebody that's disabled, you know where all the money is, because you know what's worth what. And then, yeah, of course, the big difference of what Keisha has in her apartment now versus a normal house is that, yeah, all her counters are lower, but she also has a wall-mounted oven at just the right height so that she's able to get stuff in and out. We're kinda lucky because we have one of the ovens that has 2 ovens in it, so I'm able to access the top one without having any problems. The lower one still creates problems, but the top one's not too bad. Anybody?